Imagine this scene. A brilliant intelligence analyst, only 31, found dead, but not, in some dramatic movie way. He's naked, inside a sports bag that's padlocked shut, in his own bathtub. And here's the kicker, the bit that just stays with you. The keys for the padlock, they're inside the bag. With him. It's this incredible puzzle, baffled everyone for, over a decade now? A real-life spy story that's honestly stranger than anything you could make up. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you give us, the articles, the reports, your notes, and we really unpack them. Try to find the key insights, get past the noise. Today, we're plunging into the really extraordinary and, frankly, deeply unsettling death of Gareth Williams. Gareth Williams, he was a Welsh mathematician working as a junior analyst for GCHQ, but he was seconded to the Secret Intelligence Service, SIS, or MI6 as most people know it. His death back in August 2010, under these incredibly suspicious circumstances, it just opened up a floodgate of questions, ignited a huge conversation. So our mission today, using the sources you provided us, is to really dig into it all. His background, which is fascinating in itself. The discovery, how shocking that was, then the investigations, the official conclusions that just completely clash with each other, and all the theories that still swirl around, so get comfortable. We're about to explore a case where, honestly, the truth seems as hidden as the world these agencies work in, where the official stories just don't line up at all.
And, what's really striking is how fast something like a routine welfare check can just explode into a massive national security thing. When you're dealing with an intelligence operative, the whole game changes, doesn't it? You get all these layers of secrecy, sensitivity. It complicates everything. Forensics, statements, the lot.
That's such a crucial point. It really highlights the unique pressure this case was under from the very start. Okay, so let's get to know Gareth Williams a bit. Where did he come from? He was from Valley, Anglesey, up in Wales. And when I say brilliant, I mean truly off the charts. He started a maths degree part-time at Bangor University while he was still in secondary school, got a first-class degree aged just 17, then went on to get a PhD from Manchester. I mean, his academic record alone is just stunning.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just someone bright. He was, a prodigy, really. Yeah. And that kind of brain power, it led him straight into British intelligence. Apparently, he dropped out of a post-grad course at Cambridge St. Catherine's College to join GCHQ in Cheltenham back in 2001. That's a big decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suggests he was pretty set on that path on doing that kind of high-level, sensitive work.
Right. And then moving from GCHQ to MI6 in London, that's not just changing jobs, is it? And stepping into an even deeper, more secret world. So what exactly was he doing at MI6? What kind of work, what sort of risks maybe come with that role?
Yeah, that's absolutely key to understanding the context here. The sources say his work involved Russia. Specifically, he was helping the U.S. National Security Agency, the NSA, trace these international money laundering routes used by organized crime groups, including mafia cells based in Moscow. But it wasn't just desk work, tracing things. The crucial bit is he'd recently qualified for operational deployment. That means he was cleared for more active roles, maybe even field work. And he was working closely with U.S. NSA and FBI agents. So you see, this puts him right in the middle of something very sensitive, potentially very dangerous. His work could disrupt huge criminal networks, maybe even state-linked stuff.
Wow. Okay, that context changes things significantly. So you have this incredibly bright, very private man operating at these really high levels, looking into global crime. But at the same time, he wasn't comfortable with the culture. What do the sources tell us about him as a person? Anything stand out about his personality, especially regarding MI6 life?
Well, yeah, despite the high-stakes work, he reportedly wasn't really into the whole London spy scene. Described as intensely private, loved cycling, kept himself to himself mostly. Apparently, he really disliked what he called the rat race, flash car competitions, and post-work drinking culture at SIS. So it wasn't just, a personal preference. It sounds like it caused some real friction for him professionally, made him a bit of an outsider in that environment.
So brilliant, doing vital work, but maybe a bit of a square peg in a round hole, socially speaking, at MI6. And importantly, he was actually planning to leave London, wasn't he? Due to go back to GCHQ in Cheltenham by September 2010. Looking forward to the countryside again. It paints this picture of someone really capable, but who just didn't quite fit in or want to fit into that London scene.
Exactly. And that desire to go back to GCHQ, that's a really important detail, I think. It suggests he was maybe disillusioned or just uncomfortable with how things were at MI6. And that could be relevant when you think about what happened. It creates this compelling picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Highly skilled, but looking for a quieter way out of a very high-pressure world.
So this brilliant private man, deep in sensitive operations, but uncomfortable with the culture and planning his exit. But he never got out. Instead, his life and this whole case just took this incredibly bizarre, tragic turn. Let's move to the discovery itself. The moment this mystery really ignited, it was Monday, August 23rd, 2010. Police go to his flat, 36 Alderney Street in Pimlico, London. Just a welfare check. Colleagues hadn't heard from him for days. Not a massive panic initially, just concern growing.
And what they found was just, well, shocking doesn't really cover it. His body, naked, decomposing, in the bath of the main bedroom's ensuite, inside a red sports holdall, zipped up and padlocked from the outside. And then that detail, the one that just makes your brain hurt, the keys to the padlock,
Right.
inside the bag, under his body. You just immediately think, hold on, how? How is that physically possible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And forensics initially, well, they didn't find signs of forced entry or DNA pointing clearly to someone else being there when he died. But, and this is so important, the family immediately cried, foul. Alleged DNA tampering, removed fingerprints, a cover-up basically. And significantly, they did find inconclusive fragments of DNA from at least 2 other people on the bag. How did those 2 things square up?
Well, they don't. Really. That's the central tension right through the investigation. No forced entry, no clear killer DNA at the scene at the time of death, but then other DNA on the bag. And this is huge. None of Williams's own fingerprints were found on the padlock or on the rim of the bath. The coroner later specifically said that supported her view of third-party involvement. I mean, if he did it himself, surely his prints would be somewhere, right? Especially on the bath rim. It just doesn't add up with the accident theory.
It really doesn't. A stark contradiction right there. So the investigation gets going, and it's immediately clear this is not a normal case. His death was estimated around August 16th, early hours, a whole week before he was found. A week. Think of the evidence lost, the time lost. The coroner definitely picked up on that later.
And what's really fascinating is the immediate cloak of secrecy that descends. You've got the heads of MI6 and the Met Police meeting right away, figuring out how to handle it because his work was so top secret. The U.S. State Department even asked for details of his work as U.S. collaborations to be kept out of the inquest, and the Foreign Secretary issued a public interest immunity certificate to enforce that. I mean, that level of official secrecy right from the start just screams extreme sensitivity. Makes you wonder what they were trying to protect and why.
Absolutely. So the initial findings from coroner Fiona Wilcox were quite specific, weren't they? No injuries suggesting a fight, no signs of a struggle, no alcohol, no common drugs in his system. The Met Police first called it suspicious and unexplained. Even the FBI got involved, doing their own investigation. But then as they dug into his personal life, some unusual details started surfacing. Yes. Around December 2010, the police revealed he'd occasionally visited bondage websites. Maybe 30 minutes to an hour sometimes, though they stressed he wasn't obsessed or anything, and no other pornographic material was found. And then there was his wardrobe, contained about 25,000 pounds worth of women's clothing. High-end stuff. That detail, predictably, grabbed headlines, gave the media a very sensational angle to run with.
And then there was that weird story from his landlady back in Cheltenham years before. She and her husband found him tied to his bedpost, shouting for help. His explanation was he was just seeing if he could get free. They cut him loose, but she apparently thought it seemed more sexual, maybe, than just escapology. These very personal, slightly lurid details. They must have colored the police view early on, right? And the public perception, too. Oh, completely. And that's a really critical point. That incident, plus the clothes, the websites, it offered this neat, if rather strange, narrative, an easy explanation involving, a private hobby gone wrong. For the police, it presented a possible, though bizarre way he might have ended up in the bag. But as the coroner later forcefully argued, it also risked becoming a huge distraction. Maybe even, she suggested, deliberate misdirection, taking focus away from potentially more awkward questions about his job, the secret world he worked in.
Right, so even with these personal details emerging, the massive question was still, could he physically lock himself in that bag? An expert tested it and basically said no, he couldn't have, which left the police suggesting he either got in voluntarily or was put in unconscious. That's a massive difference.
It's a colossal difference. I mean, think about it. An expert tries 400 times to replicate locking the bag from the inside and fails. 400. It's not just about being flexible. It's the mechanics of it. Locking a padlock on the outside when you're zipped inside. It just screams someone else was involved. It really puts that accidental death idea on shaky ground right away, even before the inquest. Oh, and another detail. The heating was left on in the flat, which might have sped up decomposition, making forensics even harder. Plus, the police released an e-fit, didn't they, of 2 people seen near his building earlier that summer. They were still looking for witnesses, for external involvement.
So the police investigation is hitting these brick walls, these contradictions. The coroner's inquest then becomes absolutely crucial, and it really zeroed in on that central, almost unbelievable act of getting into the bag. The inquest hammered home how virtually impossible it seemed for Williams to lock himself in. Remember those two experts? 400 failed attempts between them. One admitted a tiny, tiny theoretical chance, but still. And crucially, again, no gloves found, no Williams fingerprints on the padlock or the bag itself. That feels pretty conclusive against him doing it himself, doesn't it?
For most people, yes, absolutely. And the pathologists added their weight too, casting more scientific doubt on the self-inflicted theory. Pathologist Richard Shepard. He thought Williams was probably alive when he went into the bag. Why? Because positioning a dead body like that would be incredibly difficult. And another pathologist pointed out he'd have passed out from CO2 buildup hypercapnia in just 2 or 3 minutes inside that bag. So even if he somehow managed it, death would have been fast. And the effort involved, immense. Doesn't sound like a calm, controlled action.
And all this time, his family. Understandably, they had their own grim theories. They were convinced, they said, that a member of some agency specializing in the dark arts of the Secret Services was involved. And coroner Fiona Wilcox's verdict? It was incredibly powerful and very much echoed the family's fears.
Yes, she gave a narrative verdict, found his death was unnatural and likely to have been criminally mediated, end quote. But she went further, said she was satisfied that on the balance of probabilities that Gareth was killed unlawfully. Okay, her conclusion. Someone else put him in the bag and locked it. She believed he was likely alive when put in and died quickly. CO2 poisoning or maybe some kind of fast-acting, untraceable poison. It's a very clear, very strong finding from an independent legal authority, pointing squarely at homicide.
And she didn't hold back on criticizing the agencies either, did she? That felt significant. Very critical of MI6 for not reporting him missing for 7 days. Caused huge distress, she said, and lost vital forensic evidence. And she also slammed the Met's counterterrorism command, SO-15 the specialist, for not handing over 9 memory sticks and other items from his MI6 office. And for not properly interviewing MI6 officers. She explicitly said MI6 involvement was a valid line of inquiry. What does that level of criticism tell us?
It tells us there were serious problems. Either massive incompetence or worse, potential obstruction. Waiting 7 days to report him missing. That's critical time loss for evidence. And the agony for the family, and not disclosing memory sticks, not taking formal statements from MI6 staff. That's deeply concerning. It suggests the agencies weren't fully cooperating, maybe trying to manage the story. Perhaps to protect secrets, sure, but maybe at the cost of finding out how he died. And building on that, the coroner totally dismissed those other theories. Suicide, bondage interest, cross-dressing, autoerotic activity. She rejected them as factors in his death. She even condemned the leaks about cross-dressing as possible media manipulation. That was her sending a very clear signal. Focus on the facts, not the sensational distractions.
Okay, so we have this definitive coroner's verdict. Unlawful killing, likely third-party involvement, sort of strong criticism of the agencies. It really felt like, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere near the truth now. But then it wasn't over. The Met Police launched another investigation, a 12-month review after the inquest. Supposedly, they had unprecedented access to MI6 this time. So you'd think, okay, now they'll confirm the coroner's findings, right?
That's exactly what you'd expect, yes, logically. But no. This is where the story just takes another absolutely baffling turn. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Martin Hewitt from the Met Police comes out and announces something stunning. A complete contradiction. Despite looking at everything again, despite this new access to their conclusion, the most probable scenario was that Williams died alone, accidentally locking himself in the bag. It just flies completely in the face of the coroner's verdict. It creates this incredible, almost unheard of clash between official bodies. And the key thing here isn't just that they disagreed. It's what that disagreement tells us about the challenges, maybe the politics, when intelligence agencies are involved. It suggests that even with supposedly full access, the truth can stay hidden. Or maybe it's deliberately kept hidden.
It's just staggering, isn't it? 2 official investigations, 2 completely opposite outcomes on such a huge case. If you're trying to follow this, trying to understand what happened, it must be incredibly confusing. And then, just to muddy the waters further, new theories kept popping up. Like in 2015, that claim from the former KGB guy Boris Karpichkov saying sources in Russia told him the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, murdered Williams.
Yeah, Karpichkov's claim was pretty detailed. He said the SVR tried to blackmail Williams into being a double agent. Williams refused, apparently, and threatened to expose a Russian mole inside GCHQ. So Karpichkov alleged the SVR decided to exterminate him, use some kind of untraceable poison introduced in his ear.
Mm.
Now, look, you have to be cautious with claims like that, especially from former agents, but
Mm.
it does fit a certain narrative, doesn't it? A high-stakes spy story gone fatally wrong, especially given Williams' work on Russian money laundering. It offers a motive rooted in his job, not his private life.
It definitely shifts the focus back to espionage, yeah.
And the case even seeped into popular culture. That BBC series, London Spy, was loosely based on it, right? Just shows how much it captured the public imagination as this modern spy puzzle. And then even more recently, 2024, the Met Police did another review following some independent forensic report.
That's right. And the outcome of that 2024 review, basically nothing new. No new DNA found, no new evidence suggesting a third party was there when Williams died. So after all these years, multiple investigations, huge public interest, the core forensic picture, at least as the police see it, hasn't changed enough to back up the coroner. It leaves us stuck with that same massive contradiction. The independent coroner's legal finding versus the police's final opposing conclusion. So where does that leave us? After diving into all this, we've looked at Gareth Williams, brilliant mathematician, private man, working deep inside British intelligence, found dead in this incredibly bizarre way. We've seen the shocking discovery, the police investigations, the coroner saying clearly unlawful killing, and then the Met Police turning around and saying, no, it was most likely an accident. He did it himself. It's just an astonishing clash of official stories.
It really is. And this deep dive, I think it shows a case where the most probable scenario itself is up for official debate. How did he get in the bag? Who locked it, if anyone? Why these totally opposite conclusions from the authorities, even after all this time? These questions just hang there. And the fact that there isn't a single agreed-upon answer, maybe that's the biggest takeaway. It really makes you confront the limits of investigation when you hit the wall of the intelligence world.
It really does. This case, it forces you to think about what truths we can actually access and which ones just stay hidden, especially with clandestine operations. Makes you wonder about the inherent problems in investigating intelligence matters, or maybe just the nature of intelligence itself, you know? It's designed to keep secrets, even from oversight. What kind of world is it where, even after years of reviews, the basic who and how remains so contested, so mysterious? It forces you to consider what kinds of truths are accessible and which remain perpetually hidden. Thank you for joining us on the Depth Dive. We hope this exploration of the Gareth Williams case has given you plenty to think about, and maybe a clearer view of the shadows that can sometimes fall across the world of espionage.